Good afternoon, everyone. Can you guys hear me okay? Just say a quick hello to everyone. Yin Yang, Raz, Crimes Have Consequences, Amy, Dutchy, and anyone else who has not commented yet, hello and thank you for being here. Probably not going to spend too much time because I already had to push it back and I'm outside right now and it's getting pretty cold out here. But I wanted to go over the whole van incident because there's been lots of excitement going on around the last couple of days surrounding the van and the no-show for court. I want to start this off by saying, as most of you have heard, Benny Keys has put up $500 for anyone who gives information leading to the apprehension of Ernie Shell. I know there's been mixed emotions around here about that, and I will say that I fully support it. Not only has this man stolen a van from an individual, but he has also stolen hundreds, probably thousands of dollars from people in this community. And what we're going to do is cover some facts of the van. We've had plenty of speculation over the past few months and finger pointing and blame game and all of that good stuff. I was going to go over some funny direct quotes that Tina and Ernie had made following his arrest and release from jail over the van. And I had it in a notebook and I cannot for the life of me find that notebook. So I did find some other notes. We'll cover that. But I think maybe as humorous as some of those things were, and I have a pretty good memory, so I'll probably remember a few of them. But as funny as all of that was, I think it's probably more important at this point to just go over facts of the situation because there are a lot of people out here, his ride or die supporters, who actually think that he is still innocent of the whole thing. And I can tell you this, innocent people have no reason to not show up at court. They have no reason to run and try to get out of a court appearance with, a chicken scratch doctor's note. I haven't seen any of the video. I haven't heard any of the audio of what actually went down at the courthouse. I've heard what we were told by people who were there, just like the rest of you. I have no reason not to believe that that's really what happened. When you look on the court website, and I was a couple of minutes late because I wanted to do an inmate search at the jail to see if they had got him yet. And as of right now, he is not an inmate in Madison County, Kentucky. The court website, you will still see that the cases are active. They are still in green, but there is no information listed under them. And that website would have been updated by today if they were able to schedule a new appearance yesterday. That means that yesterday, when his attorney spoke up on his behalf and said that he was hospitalized, they would have scheduled a new date. It would have been on the record, and the clerk would have updated it in the system by this afternoon. There may be some change on Monday, but I highly doubt it. Not all states will put active warrants on a court website. There's various reasons for that. One of the reasons is because sometimes they don't want people to know that they still have an active warrant. They want to catch them. Now, anyone with any kind of common sense would know that if they don't show up to court, they're more than likely going to have a failure to appear tacked on to the rest of their charges. A lot of people are saying, no, that didn't happen. That's all a big fat lie. They didn't issue a warrant. These people are trying to make it harder on him. But let's weigh the facts. Take the fact that it's Ernie that we're talking about completely out of the equation. Here, if you get a traffic citation, you have two options. You can just pay your fine and be done with it, or you can request a court hearing, and then at that time they will offer you a deal and you can either take it or you can opt to have a trial. If you request a court hearing and you do not show up, you have now wasted the time of the court and everyone who had to put any kind of work into the hearing that you requested, and you will get a bench warrant for failure to appear. Misdemeanors, they're not going to come get you. They're just going to wait until you slip up, and they're going to say, oh, by the way, you also have a bench warrant. All 50 states are extradition states. What that means is for felonies, Kentucky will file extradition papers if they find out where you are anywhere else in the U.S. Once those extradition papers go through, they will come get you. There are some discretionary factors that they take into consideration, like the type of offense, your history, was it a violent offense, things of that nature. I'm guessing that in Ernie's case, if they find where he is at, they will most likely file papers to go get him. And they will have 30 days from the date that those papers are approved to get him back to Kentucky. He can waive those rights and turn himself in voluntarily, and they will get him back to Kentucky. The $5,000 bond, that is now gone. There will not be one dime of that left, and he will probably owe a lot more. Simply because now there's an extradition in play. Someone has to pay for this. It's going to come out of that money. So all of you who donated to that man to get him out of jail, you all need to get together and hit him with a theft by deception charge. Because all of the documentation that is on YouTube since his arrest shows his pattern of behavior. It shows that everything that he has told us up to this point, well, we're not going to say everything, because there's some things, like what he was wearing that day, what he ate for breakfast, things like that, that he was able to prove. His name, the fact that he has brothers and sisters and all that. Those we can all agree that those are facts. Everything else out of that man's mouth, I don't believe a word of it. And he has told everyone since day one that it's a load of crap. He's a liar for hire, remember? It's all a movie. A while back, I went over some things that liars like to say. And I did come across a quote that Ernie said a while back. He said, we can do this the hard way or the easy way, but I guarantee we're going to do it my way. That's pretty much what he's done. He has done everything his way, the way Ernie wants to do it. He doesn't care who it hurts, who it involves, who, has to just completely revamp their life because they have to pull away from this maniac. So what are some signs of a liar? Hello to everyone who is just coming in. Sarah Smiles, Ran 5150, Lil G, Flip Flop, John Cena, Dodie, Lee Marie, Any Pats, Curious, Nana C, Constance. Thank you all for being here. So what are 10 signs of a liar? There's always stalling tactics with them. They'll say things like, did I do it? Of course not. How many times have we heard him say, "Did I do that? Is that what I did?" They will use, they'll skip contradictions, which Ernie's never really good at skipping contradictions. But instead of say, they'll be more formal in their speaking. Instead of saying, "I didn't do it," they'll like overemphasize and say, "I did not do it." They make sweeping statements like, I would never steal a van from a company I took a job at. I would just never do that. I'm not a criminal. Emphasizing trustworthiness. They put themselves on a pedestal like they're the most trustworthy person on the planet. And you can take every word they say as gospel. To be honest, to tell you the truth, believe me, this was Ernie's favorite. The fact is, or the fact of the matter is, he would always say that. They'll make hedging statements like, "as far as I recall," or "what do you mean?" That's another one. Whenever he was fixing to lie to you about something, he would take that extra few seconds to act like he didn't know what you were talking about. And he would say, "What do you mean?" Or, "the way I see it." They avoid I statements. They remove themselves from the story completely, which is exactly what we saw him do with the van. It was never, "I left the van on the side of the road," or "I left it in a parking lot. I didn't turn it in when I was supposed to. It was the troll's fault." That's how this stream got its title of Liars, Tigers, and Trolls, because everything that's happened in that man's life, even since before coming to Facebook and YouTube, has all been blamed on the trolls. Who needs enemies when you have trolls? Oh my gosh, it's so cold out here, you guys. But I have noisy children in the house. Number 7, they dodge a direct answer. They'll kind of laugh it off and say, "Do you think I would do such a thing?" In Ernie terminology, it was, "You really think I would do that?" They go into defensive mode. That comes into play when anytime anyone wanted to ask him the tough questions, which is why I would never go on his panel. He would always tell me, "Well, Chasing Justice, since you don't know anything about justice, why don't you just grab this little link here and come on up and tell me about it?" I'm no dummy. I'm not getting up there and putting up with that, because it would be like talking to a brick wall. And then you got all the tiger cubs in the chat that would just be getting on my nerves, and it's just not worth it to me. I'll address you in my way on my own channel, and you can come to me. But they always go into defensive mode, and he would get so mad at people when they would question him about anything, whether we were talking about the medallions and the fake memberships, the fake website, the hockey mask, his stinky hat scam, which I guess we've kind of determined that the hat scam wasn't really a scam. The person who won it just opted not to take it. I don't blame you. I wouldn't have taken it either. But I feel bad that you spent so much money trying to get that hat and you don't even have it in your hands. So whenever Ernie would get mad and go into defensive mode, he would call people ignorant, idiots. We don't know what we're talking about. We're liars. We're the ones to blame. It's always someone else's fault. I think if Ernie fell down and got a grass stain on his pants, he would say that Benny Keys jumped out of the ground and tripped him, or Rap threw a tree limb in his way and he fell. He would never just say, "I'm clumsy and I fell and I have a grass stain." And he would fight you to the death on that to try to get his point across. They're always deflecting and in being evasive. They say, "Why do you want to know that? That's not important." Or Ernie's favorite, "What are you even talking about?" This was probably Ernie's most overused liar tactic in the universe. Like, this was his go-to, especially when he was having a conversation with someone new. I always used to get such a kick out of him, like, especially when he would talk to Duke. And that comes to mind because if you haven't watched Benny's stream from this morning, make sure you go back and watch it. Um, he makes a lot of funny points, and it was just funny. And then that's when he offers up the $500 for anyone with information. But Ernie would almost get starstruck, and he would go into this mode where he really built himself up to be this amazing superhero. He would just embellish everything, and it wasn't just, hey, I took a certification online. It was, pictures of him being drafted into stuff, and just, it's craziness. According to Ernie, he held every certification known to man, and he is just the epitome of all the talents. He can do it all. But what he can't do is make his way to court for his felony theft charge, over $10,000, destruction of property, and now failure to appear. That is on top of his 3 still active traffic cases, which are misdemeanors, but they're from 2007. 2007. I don't know how this man survives, but I know that over the past year, he has survived on the backs of many people in this it was never his fault. I had a creator come at me yesterday and kind of challenge me over the comment that Ernie made about hitting a woman with a baseball bat. There were 2 times that he made reference to that. The first video said that she needs to have that done. The second video was during that, like, little outburst he had where he did like 3 or 4 lives that last day we heard from him, and his voice was back to normal, and he was talking like the Micro Machines guy. There was a comment pinned on the screen during his live stream, and someone asked him, did you really mean what you said when you talked about hitting her with a baseball bat? And he was very descriptive. He said, yes, I would take a Louisville Slugger and I would rear it back. And he was trying to think of a pro ball player's name. And he said, I would knock that ball right off her shoulders. So, yeah, it's out there. So, Crime Time Grime, if you want to see that second video, I'm not doing the work for you. I put too much work into it yesterday trying to prove you wrong. So people like you need to really take a good hard look at who they're out here going after other people and doing his dirty work. All you people that are with him behind the scenes, you little handful of tiger cubs that think you're just all that, y'all better get to telling where he is. Because when it comes out that well, then you could get in trouble too, especially if you're in these super secret chats and you're making threats on people. And don't say that you're not. All your little dirty secrets are coming out now that you don't have the Tiger King around to tell y'all what to do. So, my advice is to pull your heads out of your butts, take a good look at things for what they truly are, and act right. Quit doing all this stuff for this man. I know of a couple of you that know exactly where he is. And if I were Tina and Xander, I would get one of those bounty hunter buddies and have him do me a favor. Because I'd be mad as hell if he took that money from me like that. All you people trusted him. You trusted that he was innocent in that whole van ordeal. And you know how he just figured he would pin this on Benny and Rap? I was in the chat of Benny's stream when someone was in there saying, "That's my van. I'm the owner." Do you people not know by now the sense of humor that Benny Keys has? Do y'all not know that that man will sit there and tell you something with the straightest face and he is joking the entire time? You can sit there and accuse him of something and he'll say, "Oh, yeah, I was doing that." And y'all take it literally and you run with it. And then next thing you know, there's this whole crazy story that there was bombs and listening devices and trackers and everything in that van, and that this job that none of us knew about until he had it, supposedly there's a ring of us that were responsible for getting the job. And if that still doesn't make you open your eyes, let's revisit the fact that before this whole incident and him getting arrested even happened, he came on YouTube and started posting pictures of stock photos of a van, saying that that was his new job, that he was going to deliver supply, basically saying he was going to go rescue some people, and that he had this fancy surveillance van, and everyone bought right into it. But then when you get down to brass tacks and you see pictures of the inside of that van and you see the video of him acting like a fool on the side of the road, what you really get on the inside of the van is his dirty clothes, a suitcase full of God knows what, empty Mountain Dew bottles, and a bunch of fast food trash, along with a steering column that he ripped apart because he was freaking out. He lied to you before those wheels even started rolling. Y'all thought he was going on some great mission, the all American guy, and y'all were just sending him money left and right. And then when he gets his butt in a sling and ends up in jail, and I mean, the report flat out said that he admitted to using meth. The only reason they let him plead it down to disorderly conduct is because they don't just make everyone give a urine sample when you're processed into the jail. Even if you come in acting like you're all hopped up on something, they don't care. You go through the same process of everyone else. The only time they're going to take a urine sample from you is if there's a medical reason. He was just some other dude that was high that got locked up for running around the streets like a crazy person. And it wasn't even then that he got arrested for the van. He got arrested for that when he went to court for the public intox charge. But that whole month in between, y'all were just eating it up. Oh, Ernie would never do anything like that. He's this professional, law abiding citizen who's only out for the greater good. He would never scam anybody. He's never done anything wrong. How mean of all you trolls to just constantly pick at him. He's none of those things. He's Ernie Shell from Corbin, Kentucky. That's about it. He had the opportunity yesterday to go to court, be a man for once in his life, and say, you know what? I messed up. I wasn't thinking clearly, and I throw myself on the mercy of the court. I will take my lumps like a man, and I will use that to my advantage. And while I'm in there, I will think about what I can truly do to make up for all the empty promises I've made the universe, to make up for all the empty promises that to those children who I've claimed to be out here rescuing. Those children that, while Ernie's been on here on the YouTube trying to be famous and teach people about themselves and doxing people and wreaking havoc in this entire community and completely turning everything upside down, he could have been out there saving children like he promised, like he told all of you believers that he was going to do. How about he had a girl who used to always be in his chat, and I used to give her the hardest time because she would just come at me with these smart ass comments, and I don't like that. I can snap back when I'm in the mood, and I probably said some pretty mean things, but it was out of frustration. So Blossom, if I was ever really really mean to you, I apologize, but you have to understand what it's like for those of us who realized what was going on to sit on the sidelines and watch all of you be hoodwinked like that. A few of you deserved it, but not all of the people that were in his chats deserved to be taken advantage of like that. And I find it disgusting and offensive and shameful. I'm embarrassed for you, Ernie. And if I had the money, I would pay back every dollar that you ever scammed out of anyone in this community because it was wrong. You were dead wrong for that. How many kids who are missing that he could have actually put whatever knowledge he did have about predator hunting and rescuing children from bad situations, if he would have put any effort into that, maybe he could have saved a child. Instead of lying about 1,156 arrests, maybe he could have put some of that energy into actually getting out there and pulling people off the street who hurt others. But instead, he became the people on the street that hurt others. He stole a van. He stole your time. He stole your energy. He stole your dignity. A lot of people, he stole their sanity. You preyed on people, Ernie Shell. You were the predator the whole time. And it's not a movie because there's people's real lives at stake here. People that you have put in danger because you think you have the right to come on here and say anything and everything about everybody. Oh, well, you're public figures. You know who's a public figure? The celebrities in Hollywood making millions on top of millions. They're public figures. We're just common folk on here talking to people, making videos. I don't look as YouTube creators as celebrities. I think there is a line that you cross. Not everybody chooses to come to YouTube and use their real name. And it doesn't matter what the reason is. Everybody deserves their right to privacy. But Ernie Shell took that right away from a lot of people. So whoever, Jody Farr, that's behind the scenes looking up all this information on people who just don't agree with Ernie. They just don't agree with him. They don't like what he's about. They challenge him. They tell him no when all he wants to say is yes. They don't want to give when he's just sitting there with his hand out saying, gimme, gimme, gimme. Those are the ones that you go after. So quit abusing your profession to do that and do what you're required to do and turn that man in before he completely ruins the rest of his life. He's already going to be a convicted felon. So a lot of opportunities are right out the window there. But you know what? Convicted felons get out of prison and they make something of themselves and they give back to the community all the time. It is possible. He could always get out and do good things. I don't wish him any harm, but enough damage has been done. And you people that are saying, oh, well, how horrible that people called the prosecutors because that's just making the situation worse. Well, you know what? He's made direct threats on people, physical threats, more than once. We all remember the time he said he was going to reach down Benny's throat and rip his guts out through his mouth. Or hitting people's heads off with a baseball bat, saying that he's got eyes on people in all these different places, ready to go at a moment's notice. Let's see. I do have a direct quote for that. Because this was when he was trying to convince a female creator that someone else was stalking her. He tried to convince her, a single mother, that another creator who she might have been a little fearful of was in her area stalking her. But he knew right where she was. Could you imagine like having a little bit of second thoughts or doubts about who he is as a person and his character and what he's capable of, and knowing that that man knows your address and right where to find you if he wanted to? I mean, according to him, he was traveling all over God's creation anyway. He could have popped up anywhere, anytime. Once again, on all of your dimes. All of these jobs, he says he's out there, I make $800 a day. I've got waiting on them to bring me my files right now. But yet would sit on YouTube 4 and 5 times a day. Or the times that there's subscribers with severe medical issues who just need $5 to get something to eat to get them through the rest of the week. And Ernie goes on a live stream first thing in the morning, sitting at Cracker Barrel or Waffle House or wherever he was at, sopping up biscuits and gravy, while his loyal subscribers and viewers who are giving him money are sitting there starving to death. Or they don't have, this was over the summer, so a couple of people didn't have air conditioners. Now some people don't have heat. They don't have food. They don't have cars. But he was more than happy to lie and take in money for all this bogus crap while the people who kept his channel going sat there and suffered. That's sad to me. And he's got all those handful of t-shirts he sold that if it wasn't for MAGA, they would have never gone out in the mail. But now he's got y'all's addresses too. I hope some of y'all were smart enough to have them sent to a P.O. box. This is the kind of person this man is. For the love of peanut butter and jelly, open your eyes and get out. The man is on the run. He didn't have enough common decency and respect for all of you to just show up to court. He wasn't going to go to jail yesterday if he went. At that point, his bond hadn't been revoked. But he told all of you it was. He also told all of you that he was sitting outside the courthouse and, oh my gosh, there's so many cameras. It's like the damn paparazzi. maybe that's what he really sees in his mind's eye. Maybe when he looks around, instead of just seeing, a normal day to day activity in front of the courthouse, maybe he really sees cameras. And if that's the case, then yes, there is something very, very wrong. And all of you people that claim to love him and support him, encourage him to get some help. This is not normal. We all have our quirks and our little kitschy things that makes us who we are. But if someone has the cojones to get on here and to lie to hundreds of people and present themselves as everything great in the world, and then they turn out to be the complete opposite, why continue to trust this person? There was no big conspiracy, no crime ring that set him up with that van. They were just throwing scenarios at the wall to see what would stick. He has such disdain for Benny Keys. You know why? Because Benny made a fool out of him with that first interview that I told y'all about in part one that brought Ernie to YouTube, and the little fake fan came up to the window. Oh, you're the predator hunter guy. Yeah, that interview made Ernie look like a fool. And that's why he doesn't like Benny. And he has been out for blood ever since. He has accused him of anything and everything under the sun. None of it ever pans out. They've been talking about going to the FBI and all of this for months and months and months. Yet none of us, not a single one of us, have been served any papers, have been had any charges thrown on them. None of us have gone to jail. The man was dumb enough to threaten me in a comment thread. He actually wrote out the threat to me. I didn't even have to worry about clipping anything. I just had to take a screenshot. And if y'all think that he's getting all these death threats behind the scenes, well, wrong again. And if he is getting any, he's sending them to himself. Because everything about him is just a big fat nope. And he told all of you. He told all of you from the very beginning what he was about. And no one wanted to believe it. And every single day, I can't tell you how many times I go in a chat or I hear a creator or, I see a comment saying, when people show you who you are, believe it. He showed you who he was. And a lot of you didn't want to believe it. And now there's all this turmoil and strife and subgroups and all these creators that have popped up and that are just making a mess. He single-handedly caused one of the biggest disruptions in a community that I've seen since I've started YouTube. And I feel bad. I feel bad for a lot of people. I made a community post yesterday that said, apologies were now being accepted from all the tiger cubs who just realized that they got hoodwinked. And I mean that. I'm not above admitting that, yeah, I mouthed off to a few people. I would get frustrated and I made nasty comments to people because it was just so comical to me. I felt like I was in an alternate reality. I mean, back in the days when he was still coming on as ROC and the stuff that they used to talk about, I mean, I was looking through my notes and it was just like, we've got, it's always this team we've got together. We've got this team. We're about to do this and a new project. If y'all want to, and then half the new projects and big surprises and stuff he had coming, he would never even tell you. He wouldn't elaborate and tell you what it was. That's another big flashing red sign letting you know he's full of crap. He would always start and say, "Oh yeah, I've got this going on, and it's gonna be great. It's gonna be really cool." And just I'm not gonna say too much about it right now, but just know. Then tomorrow never comes, and we never just know. But what we do know is that the whole time he's given that little BS speech, the cash apps are rolling in, and it's not about the money in that sense. So anyone who tries to walk away from this and say, would show up for every single stream he did. They were always there. They were always telling him, "Hey, Ernie, I'm glad to see you're doing good. You look good. Where are you going to eat today, Ernie?" "Oh, well, we know who you are." I mean, they were really in his corner. They were in it for the long haul. And he would do things like, knowing all the money he had just raked in for a cause that he never had any intention of following through with. Someone was in need of a piece of medical equipment just to get by in daily life. And this has nothing to do with the person who followed through and found this particular piece of medical equipment for this subscriber, because they really were doing it from the heart. They were doing a good thing. I'm sure they felt terrible about what happened in the end. Um, Ernie could have bought what was needed. It didn't even have to be brand new, but it needed to be appropriate. But instead, free was better. And it ended up not working out, and this person fell because of it. And this person still, was still there for Ernie. He was still a loyal subscriber. He hung in there as long as he could. He was always kind and nice, and, has a plethora of conditions. It's just, that's the kind of stuff that is like a knife to the heart. Because now that subscriber is being talked about, and, so what if things like that happen? Everyone deserves to eat, everyone deserves to be warm. Everyone deserves to just have the basic necessities. And everyone knows all too well that this person can't just go out and work 9 to 5 and do it for themselves. That does not mean that we are here to support everyone on YouTube. That's just not possible. If I could do it, I would. But I don't recall him ever even saying anything about what happened, about that person falling. He made a promise to Blossom. The reason I brought her up earlier is he was on one of his things about how he, wants to get out there again and start helping people. Well, Blossom has a sister who is a tunnel dweller in Las Vegas. I went to high school in Las Vegas, and I can tell you that, yes, there are people living under the streets. Great place to visit. I don't recommend ever raising a family there. Um, She has a sister who she hadn't seen in a few years, considered missing, I guess. Sounds to me like she wants to be missing, but Blossom wanted to get her back. Blossom wanted to go find her. Ernie promised Blossom that he was going to go help look for her sister. I don't even see Blossom in his chat anymore. So that's a person he could have saved. If she's missing in those tunnels, she's a high risk for being trafficked. Isn't that what you're all about? Helping the lost? Helping those who can't help themselves? With all your martial arts and special forces training? You mean to tell me, Ernie, that for the last couple of weeks when you said you were traveling to Texas and traveling to California and you were going to Kansas and going here and going there with your special forces team members, because you always said that you had the guys with you. The guys were always with you. So you mean to tell me those guys just stood by on January 2nd and let you get your butt kicked? Those guys didn't jump in to help their good friend that they go on all these assignments with? Those guys just let you get beaten to a pulp because of the big bad YouTube creators that put a hit on you? Because you said from your hospital bed on day one of your sympathy videos, when you know these secrets about people, they just don't want you around. They don't want you around. They're not going to let you make it. Those were your words. So where were the guys when that happened? And where are the guys now? Are these guys putting their certifications and licensing at risk by hiding you? By not telling you to man the F up and go face what's coming? I don't think the guys were ever there. I've always wondered when you're out traveling around, not because I want to find you or call anybody or get you in trouble, just out of curiosity, I always wondered what you do when you just wander around from city to city and state to state. Like, truly, how do you survive without the scam money you bring in? Because you seem to do pretty well. Is there always some poor woman that you're taking advantage of? Because I feel sorry for all them too. I don't know who Mag is. I don't know if she's a doctor. I don't know if she's a nanny, a plumber, a nail technician. I don't know who she is. I don't really care. But there's still a teeny tiny little piece of my heart that goes out to her, because if he's with her and there's anything shady going on, well, now there's a child in the mix that's going to have to suffer some consequences because his mama could be in trouble. So when I say that all of these actions have reactions that don't just affect the creators and the subs and viewers and things like that, I mean it. It's a snowball effect. Most people have families. Most of us have children. And all of this YouTube crap that everyone keeps stirring up and stirring up, it affects all of them too. Just like the day that Ernie goes to jail, that will probably have some effect on his family. I don't know what kind of family relationships he has. From what I can tell, there's a lot of tension and strife, and that's understandable. But I mean, I'm sure it's going to affect his mother. He probably would have gotten a pretty stern slap on the wrist and done a little time had he gone to court yesterday. Now they're going to go for the max. So, like I said, take him out of the equation. If you think that he doesn't really have a warrant out for his arrest and they didn't revoke his bond or say that when he's arrested he has no bond on this new charge, all of that, just consider it an average citizen. What happens when you don't go to court? You get a bench warrant. You didn't show up. You made an appointment with the court who decides what your near future is going to look like. And you blew it off. Any average citizen that doesn't show up for a court appearance is going to get a bench warrant, especially if it's for a felony charge. You broke the law, you were called out, and now you have to answer for it. You have to come in and tell either a judge or the judge and a group of your peers why you thought you had the right to take someone else's property and not follow through with a contract that you made with someone. Why did they trust you with their property and you just screwed it off? So now you just made it worse on yourself. And the reason there's no bond when he's apprehended is because he's now considered a flight risk. And there is plenty of video documentation to back that up, because just about every single live stream he did, he was traveling somewhere. So no, they're not going to let him out of jail. He's going to be arrested when they finally catch up to him, and he's going to sit in jail until his arraignment, and he's going to sit in there probably every day after that until the case is closed. He still has the opportunity to go before that judge and say, you know what, Your Honor, I screwed up. I wasn't in my right mind. I let the people of Bolt Express down. I let the owner of the van down. I let myself down. I let my family down. I let my community down. And then on top of that, I didn't have the decency to show up the last time you invited me to your courtroom to face my consequences like a law-abiding citizen. You humble yourself. You admit you're wrong, and you take what's coming to you. This is just a small portion in your life, Ernie Shell. By the grace of God, you won't be in there too awfully long, and you'll come out still young enough to do some good, to make amends with the people that you've hurt over the past year that I've seen. But from my understanding, it went on a lot longer on Facebook. Thank God I had already left Facebook and I wasn't around to see you acting a fool then. And I just encourage anyone who is still blinded by this idea of grandeur and who Ernie Shell is to really just look at the basics. He's a liar. He does not care about any of you the way you care about him. He needs you guys, which is why he's so nice to you. I'm assuming that the super secret channel with 60,000 subscribers doesn't exist. Because when he had to start a new one after his others were yanked away from him, he just now broke 1,000. Oh, speaking of that, I want to thank all of my new subscribers because I have just gone over 3,000 subs. So I appreciate it very much. My monetization should be back on sometime next week. I had to verify my identity again. So I really appreciate it because I lost a lot of subs after some crap went down, but I gained them back. But he needs all of you, because right now he would be a fool if he came up on this YouTube. He would be a fool. But you guys are his link to what's going on here. And y'all are loyal. Oh my gosh, y'all are so loyal. But are you? Because I think there's a couple of you that aren't as loyal as you claim you are. I suggest all of you that have this inside information on anything that Ernie has been doing for vengeance and stuff like that, because I hear that there's some plotting going on. And another thing, loyal Tiger Cubs, and this is probably the most in your face piece of evidence you need to see what a liar he is, and that the whole van setup story is a load of garbage. He's been saying all along that he's got this in the bag. No biggie. I'm not going to go to jail. No biggie at all. I have everything I need. It's all been turned over. All been turned over to the investigators. That the trolls set me up with this van. It wasn't me. Just like Shaggy, it wasn't me. Do you think for 1 second that if that were the case, that if he was just so sure and completely innocent of any wrongdoing, and he had put together all this documentation and all the proof he needed that he said he had, that he would have just shown up to court yesterday, handed that over to his defense lawyer, and called it a day? He would have gotten a new court date, and then he would have come back. Or he could have pled guilty and, come back for sentencing. The fact that he didn't take all his documentation and evidence to prove his innocence is because it doesn't exist. It's a story he sold all of you. Literally sold all of you. And there have been some vile, horrible things said about people, things done to people, because of the story that he sold all of you. You guys jumped on that bandwagon so fast, and you just went through the YouTube streets throwing rotten vegetables at all the big bad meanie trolls who ruined Ernie Shell's life. Nobody paid anyone at a mechanic shop to purposely ruin Ernie's car. The man is living better than a lot of us, because all he has to do is turn on that charm and let those dimples fly, and you'll believe anything he says. And now some of y'all are broke. You don't have Ernie, and you probably won't have him for a good 10 years. It was like a slap in the face every time he cammed up eating this warm, hot meal in a restaurant, when some of the people donating to him haven't eaten in a restaurant in probably 6 months. Or when some of his loyal subscribers had financial needs to pay for housing or pay for groceries, he barely came off any money to help anybody. But he would allow his, subscribers who had the capability of donating a lot of money, he would allow those subscribers to donate their money to other subs with needs. I saw that happen a few times. Ernie can be a multimillionaire for all I care and have all the money in the world. All I care about is if he does honestly. All I care about is that he's not out here scamming people to do it. His good friends donated $1,800 of their own money for that $5,000 bond. his good friends who gave him a place to live, who helped him all the time. I mean, to this day, Tina still sings Ernie's praises on some things. She has gotten to the point where, yes, she'll admit that he's a dirty little creep sometimes. But she still supports him, as far as I know. I bet Xander's pretty pissed because I heard it out of Xander's own mouth, and he said Ernie's a con artist. They didn't ever seem to me like they just had an extra $1,800 laying around to just flush down the toilet, basically. And they gave them money, and subscribers and things like that donated the rest of that money. So they gave 18, subscribers donated 3,200. And he just gave all of you the middle finger. When he didn't show up to court, he flipped you all the bird and said, once again, I don't care. It's about me. Poor me. He made no effort to try to make it to that court appearance yesterday. He could have requested to do a Zoom appearance. It was just an arraignment. It's no big deal. But knowing Ernie, he probably got that attorney at the beginning of the week. He probably didn't even call one until he ended up in the hospital. And whatever doctor's note that lawyer pulled out, I can tell you that what it should have looked like, it should have had his name, it should have had his date of admission, it should have the reason for being in the hospital, prognosis. All of those things could have been included in that doctor's note that would have satisfied the court's requirements, and they could have worked it out. They would have, put their heads together in the middle of that courtroom yesterday. And whoever turned in any information to the prosecutor's office to make the judge side eye and be like, look, let's just slow your roll here. There's something more going on with this guy. He can get in trouble for all of the threats he's made. He may not get any charges out of it, but all of those things, all of those behaviors, all of that crap he's been talking about, I got my waiver. I'm going to come to you and we'll just fight it out like men. Ernie, it doesn't matter if you have a waiver. If you get in a fight, you can still be charged. I mean, he didn't make any effort at all. The only effort he made was to get up early yesterday and hop on YouTube and pretend. He played pretend again. It's dress up day every day for Ernest Maxwell. And now it's like, where's Waldo? Where's Ernie? One of you subs that donated to his bond money that knows where he is needs to call Madison County, tell them where he is, record the call, and then contact Benny and get $500 of your money back. That's what I would do. Lord knows I could use $500, but I don't know where he is. And if I did know where he was, yes, I would absolutely turn him in for his own good. Because now you have an unhinged person who obviously, and who out of his own mouth has said that he has some mental things going on, who has no home of his own, has no car of his own, has no money that we know of, out there trying to stay obscure and hidden because he doesn't want to go to jail. He wouldn't have gone to jail yesterday, but now when they get him, he's definitely going to jail. The longer you stay out there, Ernie, the harder you're going to make it on yourself. You're going to make it a lot harder, and they're going to be not so nice to you. I don't think for 1 second that anyone beat you up either. If anyone did beat you up, they were careful not to hit you in your face. And it definitely wasn't anyone related to YouTube, because the story you were trying to spin, had someone like that actually made physical contact with you and laid one hand on you, they would have finished the job. The reason he kept saying Bolt Express don't have nothing to do with it is because the way Bolt Express works, when you call to inquire about a job, they ask you if you have your own vehicle that could, accommodate cargo. Do you have a van? Things like that. If you don't, they have individuals who will lease their vehicles for people to use to do these contracts, to deliver things. It's like a fancy courier service, basically. Sometimes they might transport vehicles. I know there was some people saying that it was a stolen van. I think that someone sold and Ernie didn't know it was stolen, or maybe that was just an excuse he was trying to come up with. But either way, the van wasn't his to do what he wanted with. It wasn't his super high tech surveillance van that he was out here saving all these people with. He wasn't on some big job on the border. He was wandering around aimlessly, not knowing what the heck he was doing, because he was obviously heavily under the influence of something. I remember when Tina was flashing those papers in front of the camera. I've got it right here. I've got it right here. Okay. That means nothing to me. If I can't see it what it is, see it, look at it, touch it, feel it, anything like that, I'm not just going to take your word for it. That man was messed up. He thought the dang blinker or something was an explosive, and y'all just sat there and played right into it. Y'all encouraged that incident to happen. Anytime that man gets on the phone and he's not talking and he's walking up and down the street, there is something wrong. And instead of you guys sitting there telling him, oh, just take a deep breath, or what did you have to eat today? Y'all need to be putting your heads together, finding out where he's at before something really bad happens to him. How many times did we see him almost get hit by a car? How many times did we see him sitting in an Uber? Well, one time that I know of, there's probably been many, where he's telling another passenger, don't shoot me. That's not normal. He wasn't okay. But you guys were fighting everyone in the chat tooth and nail. Ernie's fine. Ernie's fine. No, he's not. But he can be fine once he faces the mess he's created, put in the work to clean it up and get his life together. And it won't be easy. And he can't half-ass it. He's going to have to put a lot of hard work into turning all this around. My heart goes out to all of you who got screwed over. Your dollars are important to you just like everyone else's dollars are important to them. Times are hard right now in more ways than one. But some of y'all need to start worrying about what's actually going on and figure out how you played a role in it instead of worrying about some of this other nonsense. The man's on the run, and there are people still out here arguing over who's lying and who's not. He didn't show up to court. There's no way around it. He did not show up. Therefore, whether it's Jimbo telling it or anyone else, when you don't show up to court, you get a bench warrant. So fine. Forget Jimbo said it. I'm saying it. Ernie Shell did not show up to court yesterday. There was a warrant issued for his arrest. When he's apprehended, there is no bond. Bond revoked. So now do you believe it? There was no edited phone call turned into the prosecutor's office. He flat out asked Duke what would happen if he didn't go to court. You know what the court perceives that as? Flight. He was planning to not show up. But I'm serious. All of you that he took your money for all this crap and he never followed through, you all need to get together. And even if you don't go after him for theft by deception, you need to write a strongly worded email to the prosecutor's office explaining to them how much money each of you gave to this man who never did a damn thing for you. Never did anything for you. And if you dare turn your back on him, well, then you just have to take what's coming to you. He's probably going to blast all your personal information out there and not even think twice about it. All of your past traumas are going to be thrown back into your face and they're going to be laughed about as if all the people throwing them in your face don't have their own crap in their closet that they don't want known. We're all adults here. This isn't the damn YouTube daycare center. So if we're going to be out here saying that we have a compassionate heart for humanity and we care about these cases, some of us aren't interested in true crime, but there's a lot of people mingled into this community who are interested in true crime. But how can you say that you care about all of those things when you're backing this person who has destroyed so much? I don't understand it. I know no one's holding a gun to your head and telling you to do it. Y'all are out here looking people up and trying to find anything and everything you can to humiliate them. People are mad because they say that it's making it worse for Ernie that that video made it to the prosecutor. Let's not forget that when a lot of us came together, it was to expose Ernie Shell. That was the common goal. And now that he can finally have all of this dangerous behavior brought to light and someone of importance is going to see it, then nobody everyone just wants to sweep it under the rug because Ernie has enough on his plate with his van charge. Well, then Ernie should have stopped at the van charge. He shouldn't have kept going. He has made threats against people that have children in the home, that have elderly parents in the home, that might, just be a house full of females and children. Not everyone on YouTube has the cookie cutter family or home life. A lot of the people on this platform are survivors of some sort of trauma. You don't want to take someone who has been in a horribly abusive relationship, who finally got out of it and can take a second and breathe. And now they have to worry all over again because some lunatic has their address and doesn't care about putting it out there for the world. Some lunatic who got on here teaching a bunch of random strangers how to look up people's personal information. And it was like a trap for some people. Some people didn't know any better. Like I said the other day, people, they want something good to believe in. This world sucks right now. I had to take my daughter to a funeral Saturday because a 17-year-old classmate was shot and killed over a basketball game. That's the world we live in. And that was one of the hardest things I ever had to do, was to stand there with her and watch these 17, 16, 18-year-old kids try to process and understand what they were doing there. They knew their friend was killed. They knew it was an act of violence. But that's traumatic. They're supposed to, he was a senior. My daughter's a senior, and they're, the same grade. And where my daughter goes to school, there's only 2 schools in that town. It's a magnet school. And these kids have gone to school with each other since they were little bitty. From kindergarten through 12th grade, they form bonds and friendships. And this kid played basketball. He was all into sports, and he was just the happiest guy. And he was killed over a basketball game. And to see the look on that mother's face was torture. But that is the kind of world we live in. So people come here to make friendships, to not have to feel like if they talk to anybody, they're going to be made fun of for the way they look or for the way they talk or the way they dress. It's true. You can be anyone you want to be online. It's up to each of us to use our critical thinking and our own discernment to decide what's real and what's not. You have to be able to separate the good from the bad. A lot of things changed around here when Ernie Shell came onto the scene. I'll tell you that. And anyone who's been around since I started or since before that knows what I'm talking about. It's just not fun anymore. Some days it's flat out exhausting. But if you're going to be calling people out for the destruction in the community and their bad behaviors, then call it out with facts. Sometimes you have to just make it a hypothetical and take the specific person out of the equation, just like I demonstrated with the court case. He didn't show up, it's a bench warrant. Get over the fact that it's Ernie we're talking about. Get over the fact that, oh, our poor Tiger King is going to get in trouble. He's a thief and a liar and a manipulator. And maybe at one time he was good at it, but he got caught slipping this time. He wasn't expecting that when he had all eyes on him, that it wasn't just going to be the great TV show he thought it would be. Some of those eyes are going to really like laser into him and start picking every little thing apart. I have. That's why I haven't talked about it so much. I made a few clip videos, but other than that, I haven't really talked about Ernie. Because before I open my mouth and talk about anything, I want to make sure that I have all my ducks in a row. I don't want to be out here slandering someone for something that's not true, because that's not right either. The trolls didn't do this to Ernie. Tiger Cubs numbered 1 through 877. It's up to us to, we have the opportunity every day to do better than we did the day before. And that's what I try to do. I might have a really crappy day one day and I go to bed and I just feel defeated and hopeless and like, what am I doing? But the next day I wake up and it's a brand new day. Am I going to repeat the same mistake I made yesterday, or am I going to move forward? Ernie spent every day waking up thinking, what can I do today to get what I need without anyone knowing the truth? And it pisses me off that in the middle of all of this, he threw Summer into it a couple of times. That really struck a nerve with me. Ernie did not care about finding that child. It was all about him feeling important, him wanting to be the one. But he wanted it for the wrong reasons. He even went so far as to say that a YouTube creator was involved in her disappearance. Said he's got all the proof of that too, all been turned over. I don't know how Ernie ever had the time to build all these cases against people when he was on a live stream more often than not. And anytime, yes, Rap, anytime he got caught in a lie, it was always a sting, a setup. We just didn't see the signs and the symbols. Everything was a tactic and a scheme and a ploy. I knew he even did that to Duke, and Duke called him out on it when Ernie did that panel with him. And he tried to tell Duke, he was like, well, I just wanted to give you, a platform where you could come and talk. And I guess he thought Duke was just going to play along like everyone else, because Duke said right quick, no, you asked me to do this. Ernie should have known that phone call was going to make it to YouTube too. You can just not even know that much about Duke Farrow, and you know that anything you tell him, there's no secrets. He's going to tell it all. I mean, the man has a book, How to Disappear. His whole entire existence fits in a backpack. He was complaining because Benny and Rap and everybody else got all of his stuff taken away from him. He just lost everything, his laptop, his cameras, all his equipment. It's probably never his to begin with. And if it was his, it's because he went and bought it with someone else's money. Remember the $15,000 bank fraud? The loan that Tiffany Tankersley had him sign his signature on a piece of paper and send it to her? I think he knew the entire time that there was something fishy up with that. But when all was said and done, he acted like she tried to scam him and didn't know anything about it. And before his hospital He's a shell of a human being with not much on the inside. He's probably just full of regret and shame and probably a lot of frustration right now. I imagine trying to live under the radar is probably pretty stressful. And he did have some situations like with scamming people for the hockey mask, and he's always saying, "I don't have a record. I'm not a criminal." Well, buddy, you did steal a bunch of money when you refused to pay your entertainment for that wrestling event. But you ended up paying that back, so, no biggie. It was off your record. But it's still out there. There's plenty of news sources that have talked about that incident. So he's not really a stranger to criminal activity, but he is a stranger to actual incarceration. And he jumped right into the deep end without his floaties. He went straight to prison, not just the county jail. He's going to go to prison. Can you imagine what it's going to be like if he ends up in the same prison with his brother? I would imagine that would be a very tense and volatile situation for a little while. And I'm hoping that if that happens, which there's a very high possibility it would, I don't know how like Kentucky does their prison stuff, but it seems like there's a good chance they're going to end up together. If he does have some sort of mental stuff going on that actually makes him believe that Shelby wants to do him harm, then he needs to be honest with himself and honest with his lawyers and honest with any doctors who might screen him, because I have a feeling he might try to pull insanity still. He needs to be honest with those people about what his fears and paranoias are before he goes into that prison. That's just my opinion on that. That's what I would do. But he's not only, possibly going to be coming face to face with his brother for the first time in a while, he's going to be coming face to face with people who are well adjusted to the prison system. Some of them, it's their home away from home. For every time Ernie photoshopped a picture of himself and made himself look big and bad, there's going to be a real life person, bigger and badder, that he is going to wake up and have to look at every day and try to navigate situations with. He can't be walking up in that prison talking about he's Ernie Shell, the greatest American Ninja Turtle. That's not going to fly. Someone is going to knock him right back down a couple of pegs on the spot. He has no concept of what prison life will be like. He is not equipped for it. He is not ready for it, which is why he should have showed up to court yesterday and made it easier on himself. So that's really all I have to say. I really just wanted to stress the fact that those of you that are still out there talking about he's still going to get away with this and he's innocent, and no, he's not. I wanted to set the record straight that he definitely did not show up to jail yesterday. He will go to jail when he is found. Nobody set him up for the van. He did that all on his own. It had nothing to do with his wolf DNA. It had nothing to do with the brain chip. It had nothing to do with his lightning tiger juice. It had nothing to do with Benny Keys calling the police on him 975 times or anyone else calling on him. He did this. He jumped out of that Uber that day thinking that that man had gloves on because he had a gun and he was going to shoot him. And he just took off. Can you imagine what that driver was thinking? I knew it was going to be a long day when before he would get in the car, he had to make sure that the child locks weren't on. Because if the child locks would have been engaged, he wouldn't have gotten in that car. He's out there disrupting drivers on the road, being hazardous, putting himself and others in danger. What if someone with a small child in the car swerved to avoid hitting him and they flip the car and their child is injured? So many things could go wrong. So shame on you for all you people who have been endorsing this behavior for the past year and allowed it continue as long as it did. Him going to prison is going to do everybody a favor. Maybe things around here will get back to normal a little bit because there won't be so many crazy tiger cubs running around trying to pin stuff on everybody and starting rumors. Maybe people can do the walk of shame and make some apologies and start participating in some of these chats in a positive way. Maybe people can save a little money to replace all the money that they gave him. Remember when he was going to change YouTube forever? Well, I mean, he did change it in more ways than one, but not the ways that he promised all of you he would. Maybe he can sit in prison and think about all the people he's wronged and write them a letter because he's probably got everybody's address and apologize for disrespecting their military family, for disrespecting people's children that he blasted online, disrespecting women by claiming that they sent him nude pictures. Maybe he can get him a little prison job and earn some money, and instead of squandering it away all on himself for honey buns and ramen noodles, he can save that money up and walk out with it and pay some people back. In the long run, it's for his own good. He needs help. He's not going to get probably the intensive help that he needs while he's in prison, but there are programs out there available for prisoners. But they don't wait, they don't come to you and be like, you got to do this. Like, you're going to have to ask. And maybe that's something he could do. Maybe the prison that he gets sent to is a total shithole and they don't have anything to help you better your life. Well, there's something he could do. He could start writing some petitions and things like that to get programs started. Maybe he could even volunteer his time after release and go into prisons and talk about the dangers of child predators. Maybe he could speak to some of those guys that are in prison for being predators and tell them, you know what? It's not worth it. Let me help you find some resources to help you get better. You can still be a convicted felon and volunteer your time in certain ways. You can even start your own legit organization. You'll have limitations to what you can do and what your title can be, but there's still a chance. He's a few years younger than me. I'm 47. He's what, like 42, 43. So if gets the full 10-year sentence, he'll probably do about 8, 9 if he's really, really good. So he'd still be young enough to come out and do something with his life. Yes, he can write his book now. But he should probably just give free copies away instead of charging for it, because I have a feeling that people have probably paid for that book 10 times over. But that's all I've got today. This is only part 2 of Lightning Tiger, the movie, Liars, Tigers, and Trolls. The next part, I haven't decided on the title yet, but it's mainly going to be, what we're left with after Ernie Shell came in like the Tasmanian devil and shook things up a little bit. I have my email scrolling across, chasingjustice22@protonmail.com. I don't expect you to give me any money. If you want to, it's $chasingjustice. But if you have money to give, don't ever take away from your families. And you can always give to an organization. One of my favorite organizations is RAIN. They could always use money, and they help survivors of and victims of, SA and things like that. So if nobody has any questions, I wish all of you a happy Friday the 13th. Be safe out there. Hug your loved ones and the people you care about. You never know what tomorrow will bring. Give someone a compliment. Make someone smile. You just never know. That one compliment, that one smile can go a long way. And in some cases, could even change the course of someone's life. So take care of all of you. Be blessed, and I will see you guys again soon.